Welcome back, everybody, to another Pulse training session here in the Guardian Alliance. It is an honor and pleasure to have you all here and to see all of your beautiful faces. We're here again in the roundtable style of the Zoom room so that we can all see each other and connect. And I'll be focusing the view here and there as different people are sharing and talking so that everybody can really show up and dive into this collective field and this collective space together. So you guys, as you probably know, the Pulse training sessions are our new every 13 days. We get together and we focus in on topics surrounding one of the key archetypes in the Guardian Alliance. So today, our focus is the Weaver archetype. And Scotty, would you like to say anything else about the Pulse sessions as you really initiated this process because you felt like we really needed a deeper space for us to connect and focus in around the training and the work that's going on in the Guardian Alliance. Anything to share there, Scotty? No.
You did a pretty good job there describing it. I'm just grateful and honored, to be here, that we get to get together and go over this stuff together and spend some time with our teachers. So thanks again for putting this all together, Adam. Yeah. And thanks for being here, Alex. If anybody's not familiar with Alex's work, I highly suggest you check out alexfairman.com and get familiar with some of the stuff this beautiful human being has been doing.
Oh, thank you so much.
Alex, welcome, buddy. It's great to have you here with us today. Oh, somehow you got muted. Hold on 1 second.
All right, there we go.
There we are.
I'm back. Yeah, it's good to be here. I'm stoked to be able to do the Weaver dance with you all and talk about the Weaver and talk about what that means and review anything. And I'm super excited.
It's such an honor and pleasure to have you here. For those of you that haven't had a chance to meet Alex, he's the faculty and author of the Weaver course in Mastery Ring 1. And he's also the main author of the course, the Ambassador course in Mastery Ring 1, along with Simon Sutton, who helped to do all of the videos and actually models the expression of a lot of the communication skills that you see in that course. So if you haven't taken the Weaver course, which I think most of you have that are here today, would you guys just raise your hand if you've completed that course? Okay. Cool. Yeah. So, all right. Well, that's about half of you. That's good. If you haven't, the Weaver course is basically a deep dive into our social, emotional, and sexual nature. So it's about exploring where and how are we comfortable with what we're feeling and how we're expressing ourselves, how we're showing up in social situations, and also how that influences and affects our sexuality, our self-perception and comfort, and actually how we can show up and give and relate with other people. So Alex, I want to turn it over to you. Do you want to share anything more about the course and about your experience in actually doing and creating the Weaver course? Because I know for myself, it's definitely a self journey when you're bringing this stuff out and you're challenging yourself to step up in different ways too. Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. So the Weaver is based out of our mastery of our sacral chakra, which I've found not just as a theory, but actually I've run a survey in some other courses I run, and it helps people find the weakest chakra they have. And I've run that survey now to over 1,500 people. And it is empirically the most wounded chakra in our modern Western society. We generally have the hardest time with embracing our emotions, with letting go of control, with being able to let go enough to really experience pleasure and to really open to pleasure in all of its forms. And this affects so many aspects of our lives. When we talk about the sacral chakra, this is also really important because this is the place where our lower dantian, if you study Chinese medicine, if you're not, let me just quickly fill you in. Your lower dantian is basically your power center for your emotional energies. And it's the densest of your 3 dantians. The sacral chakra is really where that lower dantian is, and it's where your emotional power and presence comes from. And so all of the issues or traumas that we experience around any kind of sexual abuse, any kind of shame that we take on from our early life, anything just literally sits there in your sacral chakra engine and can gunk that thing up. So doing the healing work and consciously meditating, as well as putting yourself out there, and we'll talk about that maybe a little later in today's session, is extremely, extremely important for all of us to do. When we talk about your ability to manifest or to attract things that you want in your life, in order for you to do that effectively, you have to be able to feel like just tune in your body. I want everyone to take a deep breath right now and go ahead, breathe down into your lower dantian. Breathe down into the very bottom part of your belly.
Like right here. Up below the belly button, 2 inches.
That's it right there. So you're going to breathe in there a few times and see if you can start to feel tension dissolving. And you may feel some tension in your hips, which we all carry because we're sitting way too much. We're probably all sitting right now, and we're going to sit for many hours today, but just keep breathing. And see if you can imagine that center starting to loosen and open a little bit. And what that starts to feel like is going to be a little more emotional energy running in your body. And when we start to tune in even more, this is where our desire force is centered out of. And one of the things that we should all be aware of, especially, is that our desire force, your desire force is sacred. Your desire force is a sacred tool. It's a golden thread that's going to connect you with what your soul is looking for. And your emotions are a form of intelligence. As you all know, in a sort of a more, in sort of the Western logical mind, we ignore the intelligence of the emotions and override it with logic. But your desire force is intelligent, and it's a part of your genius. And women generally have a little more access to this. We've all heard the phrase a woman's intuition, and part of that comes from her emotional power. But men have it as well. We just don't often get trained to tap into it. So let this be the invitation to all of us to access that intelligent desire force and to really ask yourselves, like, what is it that you want? And what is it that you're calling in? And not just as a concept, but as a feeling viscerally in your body, the things and the people you want to attract, the experiences you're ready to attract, all of that. That's really the domain of the underlying part of what being a weaver is about, is being one with your desire force, so that when you meet people, so that when you're out and about, you're bringing that energy of desire and you feel juicy, you feel good. People are like, wow, like, who is that? And I want more of whatever that person has, right? We all know those charismatic people that can work a room and light it up, right? And that's what the weaver is really all about. So taking the time just to meditate on that lower dantian, to spin that chakra, to breathe down there 5 minutes a day. That is like just a very basic starter practice that can honestly change your emotional vibration throughout the rest of your day and work a lot of magic.
Beautiful, Alex. Yeah, wonderful introduction. I'm so glad you brought the dantians in and back to the core kind of teaching of this, because it really is about how energy is built up and stored in our bodies, right? So we have emotional energy, and what is emotion? Emotion, energy in motion. If the energy is not moving, if it's not flowing, it gets blocked, it gets stuck. But when it's flowing, it's healthy, it's vital. It creates charge, it creates movement, it creates all kinds of different energies and experiences and sensations inside of our bodies. And so as much as we need to open and clear these kinds of spaces, we can also cultivate energy in these spaces. So, one of the ancient Taoist techniques for doing this which is also utilized in Tai Chi Chuan and Qigong and different martial arts forms, is just following how the breath is moving through your body. And so another experience that you can try right now is just imagine that as you breathe in, you're filling up your lower belly. And as you fill up the lower belly, you're putting pressure down in the pelvic region. And you're pressing energy down and up your spine. So it starts at your sacrum here. And as you're breathing up, you're pushing the energy up the back of your spine and up over the top of your head. And then as you're breathing out, you're letting it cascade down the front of your body until your belly is compressed in. And then at that point, you swallow any saliva that's built up in your mouth, and that drops the qi down and anchors it in that dantian, in that lower center. Now, as you do this and you cultivate breath in this way, what begins to happen is you start generating more saliva, and they call that cultivating the nectar. And then you swallow that nectar down, and it goes into this dantian place, which they call the crucible, which becomes like a forge. And it's like you're heating it, this forge, and you're building a fire inside of it. But this fire doesn't just like burn up and then go out real quick. It builds in its heat, it builds in its strength, and it becomes a reservoir of energy for you. So let's practice the breath together a couple times now. So breathing out all your air, just relaxing, breathing in through your nose, bringing the energy all the way up to the top of your head, and then breathing out, letting it cascade down the front of your face, down your chest, down your belly, and down into your lower belly, and feel like pooling down there. And then breathing in, kind of wraps around your perineum and comes up your back all the way up to the top of your head. And then breathing out, it cascades down like a waterfall down the front. And try to lightly touch your tongue to the top of your mouth as you do this. Breathing in, that connects the circuit inside your head and allows the meridian circuits inside your head to sync up and back down to the lower dantian, softening and relaxing your belly and your pelvis more each time. And down the front. And you want to just start allowing like your breath to do this quietly, where it's just quietly and naturally happening. There's different yogic techniques and martial arts techniques where you may hold the breath at the top or hold it at the bottom. But in this cultivation practice, you want it to start feeling like a wheel, where literally as you're breathing in and it's coming up your spine, you're also feeling it pour down the front. And then as it's pouring down the front, it's starting to go up your spine. You want to start feeling it become this continuous ball, like you're cultivating a ball of energy in front of you. And this is something that you can do anytime. You can do it while you're standing in line at the grocery store. You can do it while you're hanging out here on the computer. You should continue just practicing this as you're present and as you're still. So Carrie, I see that you have your hand up on there. You click the button to raise your hand. Do you, if you want to give me a thumbs up, I'll focus on you if you have any questions or anything. No? Okay, cool. I'll just lower your hand then. Just so you guys know, you can raise your hand if you have a question. That should be in your little toolbar there. Or you can also just type something in the chat if you have a question for us, and we're happy to get to you. So yeah, a lot of this is about cultivating energy. And as we know, cultivating sexual energy is also a big part of that. Alex, you want to dive in on that front a little bit?
Sure. So have you guys ever gone out to party or to go out just to socialize with some friends? And at the start of your night, you feel extremely awkward. You feel like you're kind of like your interactions are kind of like they're not smooth. Like there's no smoothness happening, right? And you notice that as you put yourself out there a few different times, you notice that as you start to dance a little bit, or you just have a few more conversations, your state starts to change. And then later in your night, you start to feel incredibly loose, open, and confident. You don't feel any fear. You're now open to the world, and people are responding to you differently. So when we talk about what we're just finished talking about is kind of the inner practices of cultivating this sacral emotional energy and what's called Jing in the Taoist tradition. You guys have all heard of Qi, right? That's your heart energy. That's the middle Dantian. The upper Dantian is Shen, which is extremely subtle, extremely slow. This is when we get into like Star Walker, third eye, psychic perception stuff. But what we're talking about right now for the Weaver is Jing, okay? And Jing is basically like sexual life force energy that's dense and that's held in that lower Dantian. So you can build up Jing both through our diet practices and through doing practices like what we just did with what Adam led us through and the microcosmic orbit, breathing. But the other thing I want to talk about, and this is like literally I'm currently living in downtown San Diego right now, purposefully to be around lots of people, to be a Weaver like all the time, right? I walk out of my door and I've got clubs everywhere, I've got bars everywhere, we've got all kinds of stuff happening. And it's super fun. And as Weavers, you got to tap into that archetype of yourself that is the social butterfly, right? And so just remember that as you go out anytime, social event, networking event, party, whatever, you are going to build up a charge of emotional energy on a given day. And it will reset the next day to a certain degree. You won't be able to keep that amazingly confident, lit space through a sleep cycle. Certainly not all of it, but you will build that up over time if you're consistent. But just remember that when you start your night, you don't have to feel super confident. When you start your day out there in the city, you don't have to feel super confident. The key is to just have small interactions with as many people as you can. And what you're learning to do is to lean into those emotional comfort zones that we have and to start to expand. Mm-hmm. Just start to expand, right? Give a high five to that person passing you on the street. Tell someone they're beautiful. Tell someone their eyes are amazing. Tell someone that those shoes are dope, right? Continue to build that energy in each and every interaction, right? And what's going to happen is if you keep taking all those small little steps throughout your day, where you could have a choice to just focus on your phone and ignore the people around you, but make the deliberate choice to engage, right? That's the cashier at Starbucks making your tea or whatever. Like, ask them how they're doing. Make a joke, make fun of yourself, right? If you start to do those things, you're basically like priming the sacral water element in yourself, which is fun, which is playful, and which is the thing that like draws people to you, like makes them want to be around you. Mm-hmm. So then by the end of the night, so I went out last night and that was my sequence of events, was like tons of little interactions. Me and my friend went out. We met these like extremely mysterious 3 Latina chemists who couldn't tell us who they worked for. And we were like super intrigued. And like the interaction was very awkward at first. Like, I'm gonna tell you, like, it was like very, like they were kind of having girl time and we were like pressing on their boundary a little bit while still being respectful and being like, hey, can we join you for conversation? And they were like, okay. but like through that process of like bringing the joy energy, we lit them up too. Right. And they ended up having an amazing time. And then after that, every interaction we're having with every person is just like laser beams. Like, we're stopping people in their tracks. Like, we're changing people's nights. We're like doing all this cool stuff, but it didn't start that way. And anyone who saw me or others at the end of the night would have thought like, oh, wow, how is this? You know, he's very confident, whatever, but it's a process. Right. And to start the night, I was insecure, feeling shy, feeling, oh, maybe I'll just stay home tonight. And that's a voice that we all have in us when we talk about going out and getting social and like starting to open up ourselves to the world. So just a reminder on kind of building that charge through incremental steps, not feeling like you have to go 0 to 100 so fast. Yeah.
Well, that's right. And that's deeply connected to the nature of emotion. It's deeply connected to how energy moves and flows in our bodies. We don't go from 0 to 100. There are ways for us to kind of pump up and build up the field, and we can learn to do that more quickly. But it's a process of actually allowing our emotional body to open and to relax and to actually swell in the field and actually get connected to the field around us. You know, I definitely experience, and I loved your descriptions there, Alex. That was absolutely beautiful. Like the process of going out in the beginning of the night and you have all of these reservations. I definitely feel that. You know, I feel that. I'm like, do I even want to go out tonight? Like, I don't know. Like, I'll feel stuff in my heart going on. I'll just be like, I kind of just want to chill. Like, I don't know if I want to deal with other people's social energy. And you know, but at the same time, I know I kind of naturally have conditioned myself so that when I do go out, the first thing that I do is I focus on the first person that I can connect with, and I just deeply connect with them. And I just focus all the way in on like how amazing they are and how cool, you know, how glad I am to be there with them and what's happening in their lives, and just like exploring this other person. And even if it's brief, however long it is, that moment of someone really feeling seen, like fully seen for who they are, helps me feel seen for who I am. Right. So then it's like, I am helping see them, and then they're seeing me. And then I'm like, wow, I see myself. This is good. Okay. So then I can like go to the next piece and again, like build charge and build up a way to see myself. And sometimes it's not even, you know, it doesn't matter how articulate you are. Like that's the ambassador side of the skill set, right? Like you're developing that throat chakra capacity to steer and shape and guide the messaging and the process of communication that's happening. So you get the information you need and they get the information they need. But at the Weaver level, it's more pure than that. It's more raw than that. It's really just actually being willing to let yourself be seen and let them be seen for whatever is moving and going on inside of them.
Yep. And that's the key to sexual chemistry too.
Right.
Which is why, you know, and this is again why it's so hard in this modern time, because of we've all been conditioned at a very deep level. And I really take a good look at this, because social media, which is the art of showing people what you want them to see, which everyone plays that game, has conditions us to it operates on a deeper level than we're consciously aware of. And so to be able to consciously let yourself be seen is one of the greatest gifts you can give yourself in the world right now.
Mm-hmm.
Most definitely, because then you create the space for someone else to receive that same gift. And a lot of times we just can't even see ourselves or each other, right? So that's it. I had Jade, aka James Taylor, ask, can you speak about the body adjusting to higher levels of emotions? Is there an adjustment process where what was once higher is no longer? Yes. So if you make this a commitment, like if you're going to if you say to yourself, all right, this Weaver call was super inspiring. I'm going to spend the next 2 weeks and I am going to go and socialize every single day, whether I feel like it or not. At the start of the day, I'm going to go out there and I'm going to meet 5 new people. I'm going to just put myself out there. If you make that commitment and you keep that commitment, you will permanently change your energy field if you consistently do that for 2 weeks. Just because when I have done commitments like that, it permanently changed the way I related to the world. And it's not to say you won't have down days, because you will, and there will be hard days. There certainly will. But you are definitely upgrading the emotional energy that your system can hold and process and be with. And when you look at master weavers out and about in the world, especially master weavers who built their business on their emotional power, on their emotional fluency, if you will, they permanently operate in that zone of emotional fun, joy, genius. And you can do that too. We all have this. This is part of the gift that we all possess as human beings, is to access this magnetic, juicy power, right?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And yes, what Taylor said, yeah. So if you need to change things up, right? So if all you're doing is like every day you're going to like a coffee shops and talking to people, like at a certain point you will max out the coffee shop level. And you will need to go to new locations and seek out new people, right?
Yeah.
So that's true. And I'm wondering also, go ahead, Adam.
Yeah, I'll dive in here too and say that, one of the things that can also happen in this process is that, as one develops their sort of experience of their own power in this way, because it is powerful. The confidence is power. The ability to feel like you can show up and your energy just suddenly shifts other people and they're like, whoa, like who's this guy and what's that? And or you're doing a lot of this energy cultivation, and then you have this big sexual chi that you're walking around with, and you're letting it fly around everywhere, and you're getting a lot of attention from that, right? And that feels good. Well, sometimes what happens in that process is you start to hit this plateau where it's sort of like the subtle, innate, natural self-love becomes a little bit narcissistic. And so you become a little overconfident, a little over sexualized, a little over like self-absorbed in your presence, and you become less sensitive to the actual emotional field of other people around you, because you've built up this big field that you're walking around in your big bubble, right? And I identify this because I've both experienced this in my own journey at times, and also, I have some friends who are like master weavers, and occasionally, I get, they're the kind of people that, like, as we're hanging out, walking down the street, they talk to every single person, and they're passing out their flyer for their next event, and it's like constantly like, hey, check out what I'm doing. You guys look awesome. What are you up to? And there's a connection, but sometimes it gets a little bit overdrive to
Right.
self-serving.
Right.
And it starts to feel like, well, like, do you actually care about this other person, or do you care about me? Like, is there an actual reciprocation in the field here where when I'm with you, we're actually really deeply together, and it's not just about you and about all the amazing things that you're doing and all the big stuff that you have happening and all these things, right? And it's a good lesson. It's a really good lesson in reflection, because I think we all come to that sort of challenge point when we're doing this self-development and cultivation in the Weaver field. We come to a place where we have to really reflect on how much are we actually receiving and listening to the emotional field of others versus just expressing our big badass self right out to the world. Alex, what's your experiences with that? And anybody else who has experiences with these things or questions, again, please feel free to raise your hand or chat with us.
Yeah, like if you take this to an extreme, you can become an emotional bulldozer, which like takes you out of your mastery, right? So yeah, the game is the reciprocity game. And that's what makes it so fun and so special. It's not, hold on. Alexa, tell Echo B to raise the temperature 5 degrees. All right, that's better. So yeah, the game is really, it's a reciprocal two-way game. And anytime that we become too strong, in other words, and that energy can also start to move into your third chakra, and you can start to feel this like willpower bulldozer energy, right? You lose the magic of the sacral in those situations. But I would encourage everyone, and this is, you can totally burn me at the stake after this one, but I encourage everybody to tap into the part of them that can do that first, before you dial it back, before you really hone in on like your perfect balance. Like, let yourself get big, like let yourself expand your energy field, like, and become that level of an emotional powerhouse, and then learn how to use it. my thing is that for a lot of us, we don't let ourselves experience the power because we're afraid of it, because we don't want to affect others. We don't want to hurt others. We want to stay in perfect karmic alignment. But I say, let yourself get big and then dial the fine points in rather than fear that. That's my 2 cents on it.
Yeah, that's really well said. And, you know, in response to a couple of the comments that have just come in, you know, Carrie says, it feels like the Weaver is not just about being seen, but about feeling and being felt. And that's absolutely right. It's about the authentic feeling of yourself and your self experience and the authentic feeling of others as well, and allowing your emotional generator system to actually run and to process and allow energy to move and flow. It's like toning your muscles instead of having a big bicep, as Jade Lightweaver says. And Mirar, you know, is talking about, he thinks it's the source of the confidence. It's if it is a fake personality, or if it comes from being connected with your kind of higher self, it's probably much more easy to create a false self, as really stay in your own truth and power. Well, you know, it's interesting because every layer of our being is both interconnected with every layer and also has an independent level of cultivation, right? Like your physical body, you can, you know, you can be feeling pretty shitty and having a really bad day, and you can go to the gym and you can work out and you can move your muscles and move your body and you can still build strength, right? You can eat well and you can work out a lot, even if your mind is not working properly or functioning on its highest level. But it doesn't mean you're actually going to reach the highest place of that physical performance, right? Because you can maximize and build to an extent in one area of your being, but then you need to integrate that. If you don't integrate that, then you're not going to come into mastery of it. So with the sacral chakra, it's like, one part of it is definitely all about actually honoring and acknowledging our feelings, our sexuality, like our social being that we are, and actually working with that. And the reason why, you know, I always incorporate the discussion of sexuality in this too, is because that's one of the areas that's most intensively blocked in our culture and our society. Like, men have a pretty tough time in our society with the emotional blockage, because for men, you're not supposed to be sharing your emotions, right? You're not supposed to show when you're sad, when you're weak, you know, being a crybaby, you know, and all of this kind of stuff. And yet it's, how beautiful is it when we see authentically, you know, a man like really cry deeply for something, really grieve deeply. It's so beautiful. We all see it. We all know it and appreciate it. And so that allowance of that cultivation of emotion for men, and really the ability to have our moon cycle, so to speak, for us to bleed out, for us to allow our emotions to flow at the right times in our monthly cycle, so that we don't build up and store up that energy and block that energy and then actually try to make others bleed and take it out on other people, blaming other people for all of the anger and the emotion that we haven't processed yet. On the other side, there's sexuality, right? And while often men are very openly invited to express and be sexual beings in our culture, women are not. And it's not okay for women to, you know, be very sexual or really sexy, or they're either like sluts or they're like, you know, whatever, or prudes. And it's just this very difficult place. And I'm speaking specifically about sort of Americanized Western culture, right? So it's not true of all European culture. It's not true of everywhere in the world, but certainly a lot of Westernized culture, in particular because of Christianity, has a challenge with sexual energy, because fundamentally sexual energy has been connected in consciousness wise to evil and to the devil and to, you know, sin and these horrible things that you're not supposed to do if you actually want to experience heaven. Which is kind of counterintuitive, because when you feel a bunch of sexual energy flowing and you have this incredible orgasmic experience in your body, it feels like you're in heaven. So there's a whole series of these sort of blockages that end up in our consciousness, and a lot of it is around our sacral chakra. It is one of the deepest places where we are challenged to actually feel ourselves fully and completely and authentically, and actually show up with our sexuality and allow it to move and flow through us, so that we can be who we are and we can actually honor ourselves in the depth of what we're here to offer.
Yep. And I would add to that, just give yourself an outlet, find an outlet for yourself emotionally. And that can be a person that you can let loose with, that you can abandon the needs of like looking good, and you can go into the grittiness of your emotional field. Find an outlet, find practices that help to cultivate that energy. You know, I'll just share, just really transparently. I don't know if you're familiar with BDSM. I didn't really understand it, right? And BDSM is like, just for those of you who aren't familiar, it's basically a series of different practices: bondage, domination, sadism, and masochism, I think is what it stands for. And so I recently had my first experience, and I was in huge judgment of this. Okay. Like, I was like, this is stupid. Why would anyone do this? Why would anyone want to be tied up? Or why would anyone want to be dominated? Or why would anyone want to dominate others? But what's interesting is that if it's done in the right container as a healing modality, this is one of the most powerful things, because BDSM will actually uncover trauma that's been stored in your body from from this lifetime and perhaps others, that you've been holding on to on a cellular level. And unless you go back to the same kind of frequency, you don't consciously realize that it's there. And it's a huge healing modality if it's done correctly. Like, the point is not to just sit there and get whipped, but the point is to put yourself in an emotional vibration in which you are not in control, in which someone else is in control, right? Or in which you've truly had to surrender into an emotionally physical experience. And in doing so, there is all this energy that moves. And I cried like a baby, but I loved it. And I felt the amount of liberation that came as a result of that for me was awesome. And so, not suggesting all of you guys is that's the right modality, like go up and to tie each other up. And no, you have to know what you're doing. You got to find a professional who like knows how to do it correctly. But I just want to open your perception more to letting yourself go past your edge on an emotional level, and finding the gold that's sitting inside of each of you when you can really open yourself up at the deepest level to truly cry, to feel, to rage, to move through those emotions, because at the other side of those emotions is bliss.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, absolutely. It's so good when we can feel through to the other side of some of those deep points. Augustina, I see you.
I just wanted to share that when I heard Alex talking about that, I felt very connected to it, because I did it myself. And for me, it was just like you said, like, because I had, and I still have, but I had a ton of traumatic experiences in my teenage years and even my childhood that like forced myself to a blockage, a big blockage, like big. So I became, over the years, I became a super controlling person. You know, I needed to be in control all the freaking time, because if I didn't, I felt vulnerable, precisely, and that is exactly what I couldn't, and I still had trouble with. It's like I still have trouble with not being in control of situations. That's why sometimes I put myself on purpose in that kind of situations, so I can heal, you know, because just like you said, sometimes you need to force yourself to do something in order to like then okay, I did it. I could do it. Finally, now I can move on to something else.
Mm-hmm.
So, and the other thing I wanted to share is that I've noticed that when you have this kind of extreme experiences, it also teaches you that energy, masculine, feminine, and all the movement that history says. This movement teaches you about how to deal with other people. Because sometimes when you see, for example, that someone is turned on, sorry, that's my baby, he's watching cartoon. When someone, for example, is turned on being dominant or being submissive, that teaches you that how this energy movement happens in normal life. Just like, for example, you understand bullying, for instance. You start to understand that that is just dominance behavior.
Mm-hmm.
And the first thing I learned is that with dominance behavior, the only thing you have to do if you don't want to be bullied anymore, because I've been bullied all my freaking life. So the first thing you have to do is not get into the game. The first thing that this sexual experiences taught me is that when you don't play the game, but you don't fight either, it's like, yeah, whatever, like that. That attitude tends to be the worst response for a dominant person. And it works the same when you're confronting a bully, for example. So it's like, oh yeah, you're saying, and you're like, yeah, sure, whatever. So that like completely ends this dominance behavior because they lose. And if they lose, they don't want to play anymore. So I learned through these experiences, sometimes in sex, sometimes in social experiences, any other social experiences, I learned that mostly it's just about, and I think I'm answering part of the other questions, it's just about the movement of energy. Sometimes people need to talk and to express, and then you just have to listen. If part of being a weaver is just listening, just give that person the space, whole space, like you say, guys, to hold space for that person to, okay, I'm talking, I'm being seen, I'm doing anything that I need to do. I finally have space to do that. And sometimes, some other times, people need to really listen to you and listen to the message they have to convey. So it's not about just being seen or being made, feeling other being smaller than you or whatever. It's just like a lot, for me at least, it was my experience, letting this flow from the others and you like this yin yang,
That's it.
You happen. That's it.
That's it. That's beautiful.
Thank you.
Mm-hmm. Ride the current.
I'm wondering also, like, is there anything else that would be helpful that for you guys that you're either struggling with or that you want to create around being a better weaver, or an emotional block, or a situation that seems to be stymieing you, or anything else like that? This would be a great time. If you have any other questions, you can always post in the chat.
Mm-hmm.
But this has been a super fun conversation.
Hello there.
We can hear you.
You can hear me?
Yeah.
Cool. Hello there. I would say thank you. It's not really a question, but you already resolved my problem. I did a weaver course like 1 year ago. I'm from Spain. I was living in Spain. And when I was doing the weaver course, I was like, this is bullshit. And this guy trying to teach me how to be Spanish. Like, what the fuck I'm learning here? Like, this is not weird. This is like what the difference of cultural difference between both cultures, like Spain, like more Latin character, and people in America. And I was like, wait a minute, why I'm so angry about this? What is triggering all this anger about this course? And I realized that I've been like that all my life. I've been like weaver, but I wasn't when I was doing the course. And then I realized that I was in a very, very toxic relationship for 6 years. And I actually sent you a message about this on the Guardian Alliance. Maybe you didn't see it, I don't know. And I realized all of that, that it wasn't going good in my life during the weaver course. And I was like, okay, this is not bullshit. This is like the opposite. This is the best course ever in the Guardian Alliance. And it made me take the decision to end my relationship. And not only that, I decided to come to the United States for just 1 month to do tourism. And so I came here to Oregon on August this year, and I met a guy, and within 1 month, I got married, and I'm living here in the United States, in Oregon. My life is freaking perfect.
Woo!
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
Exactly what I love. I'm doing sound journeys with singing bowls and gongs, singing overtones. Everything is like, and it was just that to realize that that was a part that was essential to me, and I wasn't being that. So, man,
Yeah.
Where in Oregon are you?
I'm in Sisters, near Bend.
Okay, cool.
3 hours away from.
Okay, cool. I'm up there all the time because my family lives up there, and my brother goes to University of Oregon, so he's in Eugene.
No way.
Yeah.
I came to the United States to go to Eugene, actually.
Oh wow. Nice.
It'll change. So it wasn't really a question, but a thank you.
I'm so glad thank you so much for sharing. And if you sent a message and I didn't respond, I apologize.
No, it's good. I didn't really need a response.
It all worked out. It all worked out.
Thank you so much for sharing that story, Patricia. It's like amazing to hear that, even after having spent a lot of time with you in the roundtables, to kind of get this the connection of this story arc with like the transformation that you went through and like the real power of the choice that you made to change yourself. And that's what it takes sometimes, right? It takes us actually like being like this environment, this relationship, this thing, this whatever in my life, like I'm not getting anywhere. I'm not going anywhere. So you have to stretch yourself. You have to push yourself beyond your comfort zone. You have to try something different. You have to try something new to expand that out. And sometimes that new thing is just something you need to do internally. Sometimes it's just actually changing your internal practice, trying a new mantra, so to speak, trying a new pattern in yourself, like loving yourself more, making love with yourself more, whatever. Sometimes that is about getting out of the space that you're in here and actually going and connecting with new people and exploring new energies in your life and, just developing new friendships and just connecting with new people. And that's where your enrichment can come from, that can help you move through a transformation process.
Yeah. And I just want to say one other thing about this. This is one of the trickiest archetypes or chakras to work with because it's so different from your conscious mind. Like our emotional body is connected to like our inner 7-year-old, right? Like our emotional development, like all of that, it happens when we're a young child. And so the level of intelligence is not like your mind. It's not like your mental wizard, figure everything out, take control of everything. It's so subtle and it's hidden underneath that we have the most basic emotional needs. All of us do, most basic emotional needs and basic emotional truths, which I'm so glad, like you just shared, was like, you don't even realize what you're actually feeling and what you want to feel unless you commit to doing this work and to knowing yourself better, because in order to survive, in order to get through the day, in order to get through the week, the year, we often make the choice of like feeling we can't have what we want in life emotionally. Right. And that's why it's so important to do this work consciously and to dig a little bit to get in there, because underneath that's like your emotional 7-year-old who has all the answers, who's just like, feeling all kinds of things. And we got to create that channel between our sacral and our conscious awareness to get that juice. So yeah, I just wanted to bring that over. And so I hear some people talking about nature, water.
Yeah, nature definitely can help us with all the layers of our being and expressing and experiencing ourselves more fully and deeply. And it's interesting to me that oftentimes the most difficult things to work through are the parts of myself that I'm not accepting, like that I'm not actually allowing myself to feel certain things because I don't want to feel it. I don't think it's okay. I'm conflicted about the feelings that I have, and the more I'm conflicted about it, and the more I don't want to look at the fact that I'm really pissed off and angry about something, the more I don't want to look at the fact that I'm feeling this intense attraction, or I'm experiencing this love, or I'm, having this, sadness that's welling up in my being. The more that I restrict or challenge any of those feelings, the more I kind of am kind of living in this false shell where I'm trying to distract myself. I'm trying to fill that gap. I'm trying to complete some void in myself to be able to just feel okay, to feel good, right? Because I think I just want to feel good. So I don't want to feel all that other stuff. So you try kind of replacing the good feeling with things, and you're trying to like stuff the good feeling in there. But the reality is that there's a hollowness underneath that. And until you actually allow yourself to feel that anger, to feel that sadness, to feel that love, to feel that pain, that all the fear even that you may have in there, until you're willing to actually feel and acknowledge those things, you can't actually get to the joy, the real joy that's underneath all of that. Have you ever gone out and been in nature and just because there was nothing, there's nobody around, there's no immediate reflection, there's no immediate judgment, there's just you, and you just break down and you fall apart completely to the point where you just cry it all out, you bawl it all out, or you scream it all out, and then by the end you feel like $1,000,000. You feel amazing, right? And you feel spectacular because you are fully allowing yourself to feel and experience and honor all the layers of charge inside of your body. And that's what nature can allow us to do, because it's showing us what it looks like to actually just let everything be flowing. And the ocean, as Carrie says, she says the ocean's wonderful energy carries wonderful energy for this center I've found, for its deep, undulating, and infinite nature. And that's it, right? It's like every wave, letting it flow, just like the endless, deep flow of feeling that the ocean is and that the ocean represents, is just massively healing. It's massively healing for this space and this part of our beings. Mm-hmm. Truth. And yeah, Scotty, it's definitely like a critical piece for, people working with substance abuse in different ways, of course.
Yeah. In fact, they found an inverse correlation between social, like the more socially connected you are, the more you have social contacts and connections in your life, the less likely you are to fall into addiction. And the less you have people in your life that are supporting you in your social circle, the more isolated you feel, the more likely you are to fall into addictive substance abuse type situations, like scientifically proven.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Wow.
Good stuff.
Yeah, good stuff. Good stuff, everybody.
So tomorrow at 2:00 again, the same time, we're having a round table, which is just an open discussion space for anybody that just wants to discuss and share stories, share experiences in this area. We can also talk about other things too, but if you have stuff that comes up for you tonight, or there's more questions and things like that, tomorrow is a space where a lot of us are just going to hang out and share and talk and co-create some space with each other. I see a post from Mirar. Alex, maybe if you want to read that and check that out. If anybody has any final questions or any offerings or reflections that they want to offer for today. We're going to wrap up in just a few minutes. So now's your chance. And wow, Solus, the light behind you is just so spectacular. I just want to say, I love it. I love you in the gong space. And now we can see it in the daytime with the sunlight coming through, and it's just gorgeous. I'm going to actually just spotlight you for a second, just to. Thanks for being.
Okay, so we're wrapping up, but I want to speak to Mirar's question just a little bit, because this is a struggle. This is a real thing.
Right.
Is when you feel like it's certain that you're going to be rejected, right? When you feel like I'm creating the same interaction or the same energy again and again, like, how do I get out of that loop? How do I create this positive energy in my bowl? How do I actually like make this work? So the first thing you got to look at, right? And this is what we talk about with clearing the bowl and looking at the emotions you're already holding in the bowl. Because if you're having the same interaction again and again out there in the world is just your mirror. Like, the world is just reflecting to you a level of vibration at which you are rejecting yourself. If it's the same interaction and it's different times of day, different people, like, that's showing you that there's a level of vibration in your own being that is in self-rejection, right? And the remedies for that, right? The remedies for self-rejection is there's a couple ways to do this, but for me, what's actually helped me move through that in my own life has been a ruthless self-love, has been the willingness to love and embrace myself. And like, mirror work is really powerful, right? Mirror work is one of the simplest ways to do this. Like, Mirar, just get in front of a mirror and look at yourself for 10 minutes a day and tell yourself how much you love yourself. Tell yourself you're awesome. Tell yourself you bring fun and joy into the world. Tell yourself you make people laugh. Even if you think it's not true, even if the conscious mind is telling you like, I don't believe any of this, this is bullshit. Do that 10 minutes a day. I challenge you for 7 days straight. You will change the vibrational field that you've been holding, and then the world will start responding differently to you. Right?
Yep. Yeah, that's what's up, man. And I can validate that practice. I did that when I was in high school.
Yeah,
I did that. I had a bathroom where, like, when you sit on the toilet, the like sink in the mirror was over there. So I'd be sitting there, and every day, and it's like I'm looking at myself. So the question is, like, what am I seeing in myself? And I would start to do things like stare at myself until my face would disappear and I'd see other faces. And then sometimes I'd go into these super transcendental states of meditation. Sometimes I'd just make weird faces at myself, and try out different things, see how weird I can get, And like,
hey man,
at the same time, it's like,
hey Adam, you're a weird dude. I'll tell you that. But only coming from a weird dude. Can you recognize another weird dude?
Yep, I can. I can tell you, right up in here, up in North Carolina, we some strange folk up in there. Yeah, just like getting to know myself and playing with myself and playing with myself. And
I'm sure you do that too, man. What you doing under the table over there, Adam? I can't see your hand, brother.
Man, you don't want to know what I'm doing over here. But it really is it's a level of practicing seeing yourself in different ways. And it's interesting because I realized at some point I was like, oh yeah, this is like what actors do, is they look at themselves in the mirror, and they get into that role, that very specific role that they're going to be in, and they stay in that, and they see how well they can hold that specific way of being for as long as they can.
Yeah. So, and Mirar is saying, how can this work if I don't believe it? If I'm not in alpha state, the affirmation will not go into my subconscious. Well, that's why you got to commit, right? You got to commit to doing this for a period of time. Yeah. Thank you. Augustina just came in with the assist. Nice. So you got to commit. You got to say, I'm not just going to do this for 5 minutes one day and, oh, it didn't work and it's not going to work. It's like, you've got to really let this work its way through you. And it's going to be an emotional process over multiple weeks. 5 minutes a day, 10 minutes a day mirror work for 2 weeks, for 3 weeks, that will change your life. Because really, all of life, we're talking about acting, all of life is just acting. It's just we sometimes get stuck in a character. And so what mirror work is about is accessing these other characters you have inside of you. I do have to go in just a second.
Yeah.
I've got another commitment here, but I just want to say this has been amazing being here with all you guys, and I've had so much fun.
Yeah, such a pleasure to be with all of you. And our last thing there is just, it doesn't require being in an alpha state. It doesn't require doing theta level programming or delta anything. It actually just requires you showing up with yourself, seeing yourself, and consciously communicating with yourself and telling yourself how you feel, who you are. Define yourself, change yourself, shape yourself in that mirror with your intention, and it will begin to shift you. It will ingrain inside of you. And Jade, any final words there? I saw your hand up.
Yeah, I was just going to share with Marar briefly a practice that I had, and it should only take like a minute. But essentially it's about whatever I feel like I can't have right now. Like if my parents don't love me, or I feel like the world doesn't want to support me, like what I do is I focus on that feeling, not the horrible part of it, but the part of it that I feel like I don't have. Like, what would it feel like if I was totally loved and supported right now? Can I relax into that and just allow myself to feel it? Because the mind has this issue with allowing yourself to feel a state that seems contradictory to what your logic or programming says that you're allowed or permitted to feel. So for me, it's about not listening to the logic of the mind and simply saying, oh, that's what I feel like I don't have in my life. Okay, that's just what I'm going to feel. And it may not feel perfectly as a match with what you think it's supposed to feel like, but it's like, if what I'm feeling right now, if simply this space, relaxing into it, if that was the feeling of support, do I have some logical component that requires it to look different? Some way that I'm delaying my gratification of this feeling, extending that need of, I need to do something before I can allow myself to be supported in this way. And it's about shortening that gap for yourself and just resting in that state. That's what I have found to be the most useful for me personally.
Thank you, Jade. Wow, thank you guys all so much for being here. I hope you've enjoyed this. And if you haven't taken the Weaver course in Mastery Ring 1, highly recommended. We do seasonal memberships now, or monthly if you want. So you can just sign up for a monthly membership or a seasonal membership, or you can buy the course and get a lifetime pass. And we totally welcome that as well. Alex, thank you so much for being with us here today. It's been epic to just hold space with you again, my brother.
And you as well. So much fun. All right, y'all, keep bringing the light, keep raising the vibration. It just gets better and better from here. The veil is getting thin. You know what I'm saying? It's getting very thin out there. I'm seeing some crazy shit, and I hope you guys are too. Let's go. Let's go. All right. Love you guys.
Do this. Okay. See you guys tomorrow in the round table, again at 2 p.m. Eastern time. If you can make it, if you want to share, discuss, tell stories, love to see you guys then. And thanks again for being here. Have an awesome day. Blessed be.